It is June 1940. A 19-year-old soldier stands chest-deep in the cold gray water off a French beach. He holds his rifle above his head. He is waiting for a boat that may never come. Behind him, a city burns. Above him, the sky shrieks with diving aircraft. He has not slept in 4 days. Somewhere across the channel, his mother is writing him a letter he will never read. He is one of nearly 400,000 men trapped here at a town called Dunkirk. 6 weeks ago, none of this seemed possible. 6 weeks ago, the Allies had more men, more guns, and more tanks than Germany. The French army was called the finest in the world. And in just 46 days, it would be destroyed, and the fate of the world would come down to a fleet of little fishing boats. This is how it happened. When Germany invaded Poland in 1939, Britain and France declared war and then did almost nothing while Poland was crushed. Adolf Hitler wanted to strike west and fast. His own generals were horrified. To reach France, they would have to attack through Belgium, exactly where the Allies expected them. General Wilhelm Ritter von Lieb warned, "The French will not be surprised. Our bloody sacrifice will be great. An attack on France cannot be done like the attack on Poland." But one officer, General Erich von Manstein, proposed something insane. Instead of the obvious route, send the tanks through the Ardennes, a dense forest of narrow roads the French believed no army could cross. It was a gamble that could lose the war in a week. The German High Command hated it. General Fedor von Bock erupted. "You are cramming the mass of the tank units into the sparse roads of the Ardennes, as if there were no such thing as air power." But Hitler loved it. The plan had a name, Sickle Cut, the Sickle Cut. The Allies never imagined it, and that would cost them everything. May 10th, 1940, at dawn, the storm broke. German forces poured into Holland and Belgium, loud, fast, deliberately obvious. They wanted the Allies to believe this was the main attack, and the Allies took the bait, rushing their best armies north to meet it. On May 14th, to terrify the Dutch into surrender, the Luftwaffe bombed the heart of Rotterdam. 800 civilians died in minutes. Whole streets simply ceased to exist. The next day, the Netherlands surrendered. On the roads, it wasn't soldiers who suffered most, it was families. Millions of civilians fled south, clutching children and suitcases, choking the roads the Allied armies needed. German planes strafed the columns. Mothers shielded their children in ditches. 8 million people became refugees in a matter of weeks. And while the world's eyes were fixed on Belgium, exactly as Hitler intended, the real blow was already moving, silent and unseen, through the dark forest of the Ardennes. For 3 days, a column of German tanks 150 miles long crawled through the Ardennes, bumper to bumper, helpless, a target a child could have hit from the air. No one came. The French had left the Ardennes almost undefended. They thought it was impossible. By the time they understood their mistake, it was too late. One French commander had begged for reinforcements days earlier. None arrived. On May 13th, the Germans reached the Meuse River at Sedan and crossed. Heinz Guderian's tanks broke through. Erwin Rommel's division surged forward. French units, shattered by relentless Stuka dive bombers, began to break and run. A captured French general said it best, and it sounds almost like a confession. "You are too fast for us. It's everything." Speed was everything. The Germans moved faster than the French could think. Rumors spread that the enemy was already behind them, and panic did the rest. The finest army in the world was not being beaten in battle. It was being outrun, and the trap was about to close. On May 20th, German tanks reached the sea at Abbeville. In 10 days, they had driven a blade clean across France, and on the wrong side of it, cut off from home, stood over 1 million British and French soldiers, the best of the Allied armies, surrounded. A young German officer described what he drove past: shot-up vehicles, burnt-out tanks, abandoned cannon, a never-ending chain of destruction. There was still courage. At Arras, British Matilda tanks counterattacked and genuinely frightened the Germans. At one village, a single French tank commander, Pierre Biotto, destroyed 13 German tanks in one afternoon, alone. But courage could not undo the map. The trapped armies had one road left, to a single port on the northern coast, where the land ran out and the sea began. They began to retreat towards it, fighting every step. The name of that port was Dunkirk. What waited at Dunkirk was not rescue, it was chaos. hundreds of thousands of men packed onto open beaches with nowhere to hide. German aircraft came in waves, hour after hour, bombing the helpless ranks below. Men dug into the sand, men prayed, men stood for hours in the freezing water, in lines stretching out into the sea, waiting for a boat. Quartermaster Frank Hurrell never forgot it. I got on a boat just after 7 that evening. An air raid came in. The ship got struck, and I found myself blown into the water. I could only doggy paddle because of my wounded leg, but I tread water, got myself back to the beach, and waited for my chance again. He climbed back into the fire. So did thousands of others. And then, across the channel, something extraordinary happened. The British called for help, and ordinary people answered. Fishermen, ferry captains, weekend sailors in pleasure boats, hundreds of tiny civilian craft set out across open sea, straight towards the bombs, to bring the army home. By June 4th, they had pulled 338,000 men off those beaches. But it was not a clean miracle. Tens of thousands stayed behind, most of them French soldiers, fighting to the last so the others could escape. They held the line, knowing the boats would not come for them. They were captured. Many were never seen again. Every man saved at Dunkirk was saved by someone who was not. Dunkirk saved the army. It did not save France. What was left of the French forces fought on, and many fought to the death. But there were now twice as many German divisions, and the line could not hold. On June 14th, German soldiers marched into Paris. Crowds lined the streets and wept openly as the enemy passed beneath the Arc of Triumph. The old First World War hero, Marshal Pétain, declared the war lost and asked for an armistice. But not everyone surrendered. From a studio in London, a then unknown general named Charles de Gaulle spoke into a microphone to a country that had just fallen. Whatever happens, the flame of French resistance must not and shall not die. Almost no one heard him that day, but that would change. In 46 days, the Battle of France was over. 60,000 French soldiers were dead, 12,000 British, 45,000 Germans, 30,000 civilians, mothers, fathers, children who never chose this war at all. And our 19-year-old standing in the surf? Some boy like him made it home and lived to be an old man who could never quite explain the silence that came over him every June. And some boy like him did not, and became a name on a stone, and a letter that came back unopened, and an empty chair at a table for the next 60 years. The finest army in the world had fallen in 6 weeks, but the men who escaped those beaches would be back, and next time they would not be running.